I mean, you could just have standstill traffic there. I-4, same thing, much more than we normally have. But I think anyone that's driven in Central Florida knows you get on I-4 near like Champions Gate in some of these places. That's part of the reason why we're doing Moving Florida Forward, doing all that, and like it needs to get done, and we're accelerating that. But there's bad traffic anyways, but there was a lot of people on the road. And then I think yesterday to see Alligator Alley at 150% of its normal, that's telling you that there are a lot of people that have done that. And we've stressing the availability of local shelters. Anytime you evacuate, there's going to be a certain amount of hazard for that because there's a lot of people on the road, especially if conditions start to get bad. The safest thing is drive that 10 miles, 15 miles, wherever, go to the shelter. But you don't have to do that. A lot of people haven't done that. I'm a little surprised at the number of the shelters. I thought it'd be a little bit higher. But I also think, if the storm wasn't going to hit till Wednesday night or Thursday morning, a lot of people wouldn't want to stay in a shelter Monday or Tuesday night. So I do think you're going to see the shelters. I think that number is going to go up today throughout all those counties that are in the eye of the storm. And, of course, we have the state shelters. That's up on the DEM website where you can see all those. Those are going to be, it's like big. Those are all thousands of people can fit in each one of those. And we thank, we've had businesses that have leased it out. I know we did Hard Rock. We've done a bunch of stuff. You're going to have internet, you're going to have a generator, there's going to be power. Again, it's not going to be the Four Seasons, but it is going to be something that's going to be tolerable for a night. And so if you're in a situation where you're just hoping that you don't get hit with massive storm surge, those are going to be really, really good options for you to do.
So obviously the storm is very dangerous, and you've been pushing for evacuations and whatnot. There's also misinformation out there that I think even a member of your team has tried to dispel online. I know the FEMA administrator brought up other reports of misinformation. I just want to know your thoughts on it.
What specific misinformation are you talking?
There was one. There was one tweet that was telling people not to evacuate because there was some collusion between FEMA and a security team that wouldn't let people back into their homes. That was obviously.
Guys, listen. I think most people are wise to this. We live in an era where if you put out crap online, you can get a lot of people to share it, and you can monetize that. That's just the way it is. But if you're hearing something that's just outrageous, just know, in the state of Florida, none of that stuff would ever fly. So you don't have to worry about that. FEMA is not leading this show. We are leading this show here in the state of Florida. We're marshaling whatever assets are available to us. We're leveraging that. But certainly with people evacuating, in my executive order, I put in on Saturday that the default is you have a right to immediately return to your home following the storm. Now, there may be some circumstances that are not usual, but if a bridge is about to collapse, if there's real massive hazards, if there's active rescues going on, but the default is you get back. You can't just say, we're just going to keep people off for 48 hours because we think it'll be easier to clean up debris. No. This is your private property. This is your home. You have a right to go back. So that's in our executive order. That'll be something that we work towards to make sure that that's the case. It's important that people are able to get back. And I'd also note, we talk about the debris. You had all this debris, right? These contractors, some of them were doing a lousy job, others weren't. And we decided to take it on ourselves to go really surge people and supplement that. But by keeping the landfills open 24/7, there was a lot of private citizens that were going cleaning up debris, bringing them back. And these guys got like Ford F-250s. They're bringing them back to the landfill drop-in. That was a huge help. So there's not going to be anything where FEMA is ever going to be able to keep you from your home. Be careful about the nonsense that gets circulated, and just know that the more titillating it is, the more likely somebody is making money off of it. And they don't really give a damn about the well-being and safety of the people that are actually in the eye of this storm. It's all just trying to monetize what they're doing. And I know there's been a lot of stuff about what FEMA's done in other states. Look, I haven't been there. I don't know. But I can tell you in Florida, we are leading this train. We're marshaling all available resources, federal, state, and we're supporting local. And that's the way it's going to be. So you can have confidence in that. Yes, sir.
Right now, roads are passable and encouraging evacuation. Have you guys, based on the size of the storm and the speed it's moving, have you picked a time of when people should not hit the roads and when they should shelter in place?
We haven't, because I think it just depends on where you are, what the conditions are. I would say that the conditions are going to get worse throughout the rest of today. So these local shelters are a great option to be able to go and drive a few miles, get into a shelter, and then just ride out the storm is not going to be a problem. I mean, if you leave right now, go to your local shelter, you're fine, right? If you leave right now and you get on the interstate and you want to drive to Pensacola, look, just know that you're going to start to see some hazards. We do have fatalities on the roads with almost every storm. So the risk that you're assuming is a lot higher than if you just go to a local shelter. So I wouldn't want to say there's like a hard and fast time where you just can't. I think now you can go to the local shelter, but I would say even starting now, when you start talking about the interstate, you are going to see conditions deteriorate throughout today. And there is a lot of rain. There's problems in different parts right now. People get it. There's bands and whatnot. And it's not going to be right now hurricane force right now, but still, this is something that could be problematic. And so, I mean, I just think like if you're elderly or something like that, what would be the better option? Like, I would advise probably just going to the shelter right now rather than trying to get on the interstate, and go visit your kids or something. So, but people can make that decision based on what is in front of them at the time. There will come a time probably where, once we start getting the tropical storm force winds, where it is definitely going to be too dangerous. I don't think we're there now, but I think that's rapidly approaching.
Regarding the shelters, basically for people who are displaced after this storm, will they be able to go to these shelters? If they go to their house and it's destroyed, will they?
I think let Kevin talk. I think these shelters are to ride out the storm. We've worked with counties with Helene on sheltering availability for post-storm. I don't know that these are necessarily the same things on that, but we have had that mission. Do you want to address?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. What I'll say to that is, again, to the governor's point, these private sector locations are what we would refer to as the shelters of last resort. Again, they're not the Four Seasons. They're cots in a warehouse in some cases. Our biggest facility is a warehouse. It's right next to our new facility in Auburndale. But what we will do, because this is a point of emphasis for the governor, he's given me this direction, hear it loud and clear. When this storm is over, we need to get kids back at school. We need to get community and life back up and running, and we're going to be committed to doing that. My goal that I charge the team out there on the floor with is, let's get kids back in school in 3 to 5 school days after landfall. We're going to do that. To be successful at that, we're going to have people that are going to be in long-term sheltering. So we were going to have to open up other big box stores. Now, what we will do there is, where we're in warehouses right now along the interstate corridors, we will start looking for maybe those mall big box stores, something that may have even been right on the edge of an evacuation zone or a flood zone. For example, there's a really good place, Gulf Square Mall in Pasco County, Hudson. That is in an evacuation zone. That is in a flood zone. We would never go there to put people in harm's way. But after the fact, that might be a very good place to go and open a recovery shelter while we get kids back at school. Thank you.
Yesterday it was said that the state will ask FEMA for a waiver allowing more contractors out of state to come to Florida. Has FEMA responded to that?
Don't believe so, have they?
No, sir. We're still working with that, putting that on a letter. We got 3 options. We're just trying to get the best option that's going to have the path of least resistance.
Great.
Related to the schools part of that, to kind of what Director Guthrie was talking about, I believe after Ian, there was a situation where some of the schools were just too damaged to actually have kids back in there. Is that something you just have to wait and see where the storm hits? And just
that'll be that. We'll assess that at the time. I know, like on Sanibel, for example, those kids went to different school at that point across the bridge. It's a lot easier when we fixed the Sanibel Causeway, so they were able to do that. That may happen here. We'll see, but that'll likely be driven by the school districts make a decision, and then we'll be able to offer probably some support for that through our Department of Education. But these are things that are live possibilities. A storm of this magnitude, you are going to have some of these the schools that could be damaged. Now, I would say most of the schools that are not like on barrier islands, these are good structures mostly, and that's why we use them for shelters. So I would imagine you'll see some damage inland. but probably not to the extent that we saw on the barrier islands after Ian. On these barrier islands at the schools they're kind of in the similar spot. It's a big storm, and you could have some damage, and it may not be as simple as just being able to get people back in after 3 days. Okay.
Basically, the people who are staying behind, I know police are going door to door in some places. Are you guys being told who these people are and their locations, and are you?
That's a local thing. I know the sheriffs and the first responders on the county basis, they're doing that. What I've always said is, you are being warned on this. You've seen, I mean, just think about Helene on these Gulf Coast in central Florida. It was 100 miles away, and you still had feet of storm surge where there were fatalities as a result of that. This is one that's going to be potentially delivering even more surge than what we saw in Pinellas and Manatee. I mean, almost definitely will deliver more surge in some of these areas. And so that is hazardous, that is life-threatening, and you'd be wise to go to a shelter, ride it out, but rather than try to mess with that. And if there are a lot of people that do stay behind, I mean, unfortunately, there will be fatalities. Like, I don't think there's any way around it when you have storm surge that could be 10 feet. So you have time to do that. There's going to be people who stay behind who are going to be in distress. We are going to, working with the locals, we're going to conduct rescue operations. We will do that, and a lot of those were successful last time in the Helene. But why would you want to risk it at this point? So this is a big storm. It's going to do a lot of damage. It's going to create a lot of threats to life. It's obviously going to destroy property. We're bracing for that, but we're doing everything we can to try to mitigate the damage beforehand, and we'll do everything we can to help with rescues and getting people back on their feet afterwards. Okay, thanks.
You're watching the Florida Channel, a public service.